congratulations on purchasing the boat from us here at Melbourne Marine Centre. What I'm going to do today is take you through the braking procedure of your engine, which is the Mercury 60 horsepower in this occasion. Now this run-through procedure works from engines from 40 through to 60 horsepower because they're very, very similar. So basically what you'll get from us is your dealer books. Inside here you'll have your log servicing book, your engine operation manual. If it's a stacer, you'll have your owner's manual on the boat, and then there'll be another booklet on the SC1000 gauge, which you'll see later in the video. I'll take you through on how that operates. If you forget anything, all the information is going to be here within your books. And when it comes to the motor, your braking procedure on your engine is on page 38 of your owner's manual. It's pretty straightforward, and it's really only the first couple of hours of operation that you have to be conscious of. So for the first hour of operation, avoid going over 3,500 RPM, which is about half throttle. In your second hour of operation, take it to 4,500 RPM, and then every 10 minutes, take it to wide open throttle and hold it there for 1 minute, and then back it back down. During those first couple of hours, you want to be varying your RPM as well. And then from 2 hours through to 10 hours, avoid continuous wide open throttle for periods longer than 5 minutes at a time, and still varying that RPM range. Now from 10 hours to 20 hours, it's just normal operation. At either 20 hours or 3 months, now it's whichever comes first, the boat needs to come back to us for its first service, and then we'll just do a check over everything and make sure everything's running as it should be. There's a couple of items that you'll need to check and inspect on the motor itself throughout the ownership period. One being, obviously, if you ever want to check the oil, which you will find it's quite easy to do. You have a latch here at the back of the motor. You just simply just pop that, tilt the engine cowling forward and lift the engine cowling off. This point here is yellow. This is where you would top it up. Not that you should ever have to worry about it, but if you ever need to top it up, around here is where you would fill it up. Now around this side, you'll see we have the dipstick. So to disengage that, pull it up and remove the dipstick, and then you can check the oil. Now when you're checking the oil, it's always good to have a rag close by, and you just wipe it. Now where the oil should be sitting is somewhere between these two dots. So as long as it's in there somewhere, when it's cold, that's fine. If it's below here, that's when you add oil. So most packages will have a battery isolation switch. Engines 40 through to 60 horsepower. You should also have a fuel primer bulb. You may have an underfloor fuel tank, or you'll have an external, what we call a tote tank. Either way, you'll still have a fuel primer bulb. So what we've got here, down the back, you'll see your isolation switch. So always make sure that that's obviously in the on position when you want to start the boat for the day, or whether you're starting the boat on the trailer to flush the engine. And this is your fuel primer bulb. Now that arrow should always point towards the engine. You want to make sure it's firm, usually about 4 or 5 pumps, and it's firm enough to start. So you've arrived at the boat ramp for your day out on the water. There's a couple of things you'll need to remove before you put the boat into the water, and obviously put the bung in at the same time. So at the back of the boat here, what you'll have is a trailering clip. To remove this, it's just a matter of trim the engine up, you rotate this little spacer 180 degrees and slide it out, and it's reversed when you want to put it back in at the end of the day. Slides in over there over the trim ram, and then trim the engine back down onto it. Nice and easy and straightforward. You also need to make sure you remove your tie downs. The boat won't come off the trailer if you reverse it down into the water and leave your tie down straps attached. It's pretty straightforward depending on the type of tie down system. These are just a basic ratchet. You release that and remove your tie down strap. The other item that you'll need to make sure you put in is your bung. Now on the Stacer model in particular, it's just a single bung at the transom. Most boats generally have just the one bung. but always make sure if there's another one, you put that in at the same time. We're all guilty of not doing it, but you'll soon find out if you do leave it out. So you're about to get ready to launch the boat into the water. Before you back down, it's always a good idea just to check your winch strap and your safety chain is still attached. Don't disengage the safety chain or your winch strap until the boat is safely in the water. Too many times we've seen people undo all this and then reverse down the boat ramp only to have their boat slide off the trailer and land on the boat ramp and just ruin their weekend or their holiday. Very easy to use the winch. It's just a matter of taking the pressure that way, fold the pin back and just wind it backwards to give yourself some slack. And then obviously in reverse, when it comes to doing it back up, your safety chain is just undoing the D-shackle and then putting that back in. Make sure you screw that up nice and tight when you do remove it so that it doesn't fall off while you're out in the water or when you remove the trailer out of the water once the boat's free. So when it comes to starting the engine, 40 horsepower through to 60 horsepower are a fuel injected engine. So it's very straightforward, there's no choke. It's just a matter of turning the key on. Always make sure that your lanyard is attached. You can clip that to your belt and make sure that that is in the run position. If that's not in the run position, the engine won't start. So you hear the beep, which is the warning system, and then you just turn the key and away they go. Using the engine, you've got your tilt and trim button here. So obviously trim up, trim down, and then this is a D10, the red tab, and then you can shift gear, so forward, backwards. Never hold your hand on it when you're shifting. Always release the red tab so that when you pull it back to neutral, the D10 button engages. So you've been out in the water for your first trip and you've come home, and it's time to obviously wash the boat down and flush your engine out if you've been out in some salt water. Now, in your safety gear you'll find a set of earmuffs. Very, very straightforward and easy to put onto the engine. Down here is the pickup. So this is where the engine picks the cold water out of whatever environment you're in, and it cools the engine from there. And when we're at home putting it on the earmuffs, from 40 horsepower through to 60 horsepower, you need to slide the earmuffs on from behind here and over those intake grates. So when flushing the engine, obviously I've shown you how to put those earmuffs on. Never start the motor without your water running first. Always make sure that your telltale is pumping water. Now this is always a good thing to check, not only when you're flushing the engine, but also when you're out on the water using your boat. If there's no water coming out here, it means that something is blocking your intake. Turn the engine off, trim the engine up, and make sure that it's free and there's nothing blocking it, so the engine doesn't overheat. A question we often get asked is, what's an appropriate time frame for flushing the motor? How long should I run the engine for? And a simple answer is around that 5 to 7 minute mark. You basically want the engine to heat up. You want your thermostats to open and pump the water right through the whole cooling system, getting rid of any of that salt water that you've been boating in for the day. While you've got the engine cowling off, and this is after you've probably been out on the water for the day, it's a good idea to spray it with CRC or WD-40. You don't have to do it every time, but maybe every third or fourth time, just give it a light spray. Don't shower it in it, and leave the engine cowling off so that all the moisture can evaporate out from underneath the cowling as well. Wait for the engine to cool down before you put the engine cowling back on. Now, in terms of your sounder or GPS unit, best thing to do obviously is get out on the water and get yourself familiar with the functionality of it. And then what you can do is jump onto YouTube and type in the model and the make of the sounder GPS unit that you have in your boat and watch some of those tutorial videos, because you'll find you'll pick up little bits and pieces of information and then you can apply that knowledge once you're out on the water. The best thing to do is leave your fishing rod at home, put your boat in the water, and go out and get used to the operation of how your sounder and GPS works, and go from there. Once again, thank you for purchasing your boat from us here at Melbourne Marine Centre. If there's any other questions, please feel free to give us a call. Our details will be on the front of your service books, and you can just call us on the main phone number there, 9703 2003. Thanks again.